Hello YouTube. In the 1980s, there was an amazing TV sitcom called Dinosaurs. It was done by the Henson Studios and it featured a family of dinosaurs that were pretty huge and they were massive, great big costumes. I'm going to be making Baby Sinclair in this video. So I start with this wire frame. That's just 2mm aluminium wire twisted around itself. Then I squash aluminium foil onto it to get this very basic form for Baby Sinclair. As you can see, it's quite sort of loosely packed to start with, but then I add a bit more, make it a bit firmer, and then I coat this with a coat of Milliput. If you haven't heard of Milliput before, it's a two-part putty. You mix the two parts together in equal amounts and it sets rock hard at room temperature in about 4 hours. As you can see, I start off by just giving him a very basic skin. It's really just 2 or 3 millimeters thick in most areas. You can see I've built up the eyebrow ridges and then I've done his eyelids. Those balls were just made of superfine white milliput. They were just leftovers that I had from another project. Then you can see I started building up his mouth. So I did his upper jaw, just getting the main sort of overall shape, and then I added the lower jaw, and it's going to be a lot kind of wider than this at some point. He did look a bit weird because he didn't have his cheeks on, but I've added some cheeks, and then his pectoral muscles, again just getting the very basic shapes in his sort of belly area and his nappy at the bottom, the start of his nappy. Okay, and then I've added some to his arms just to thicken them up a bit at the lower parts of the arms. I will add some more as well at the tops of the arms later, but just for now, just getting those kind of rounded bits where it's going to join onto the hands when I do the hands. You can see with the legs as well, I've added these two parts. I think I end up making the lower parts a bit shorter. I kind of saw a bit off. You can do that with Milliput. It's really good. After it's hardened, you can saw it as well, or you can sand it. So the hands I made separately, and then I just drilled holes into them, and I fed a wire into the hole with super glue on it, and then I made a hole in his arm as well and fed the wire into that. And you can see they're put on, and the hands at this stage look really quite rough. Can you see there's all like pits and kind of holes in them and things, but I can fill all of those as I go along. Here I've got a couple of shapes that are going to be the feet, and again you can see anything that's big I tend to do like a squashed aluminium shape first and then just add a layer of milliput over the top. So I'll show you the foot shapes with some milliput added to them. They look like this, and again I have drilled a little hole and fed a wire into the back of each foot and super glued that in place. I'm going to put another wire in the leg and feed it up into the leg, and you can see I've made the toes separately as well, and I've done the same thing, drilled a hole, put the wire in with super glue, and then I drill holes into the feet and feed those in. The wire just strengthens them. If you imagine like if you just made the toes separately and stuck the milliput straight on, if you kind of really smoothed it in, it might work, but if you didn't smooth it in very well, they could probably get knocked off. So it's worth feeding the wire in, it just strengthens it all completely. And I just use this little drill vise for making all my holes. Okay, I didn't mention the nappy a minute ago, but you can see I did the nappy and I've done this top now as well. So the top was just a case of putting in like the ridges that make the bit where it overlaps like a little flap, and then the bit along the bottom. So you just make like a really long roll of milliput, like a long sausage. I did the same on the top of his nappy and on these bits, and you just kind of smooth it in so it's stuck onto the actual body, and then you just add all the ridges. I use like a little modeling tool that's kind of like a rubbery point. It's one of those like silicone tools. They're really good for adding those little grooves, and you can see I've added loads of creases and things into the nappy. They show up really nicely now already, but when I come to paint this whole thing, they'll show up even better. Obviously I continued those lines of the top of the nappy round the back, and then I've added a tail as well. Still kind of soft milliput at the moment, so I'm just smoothing it in, and then I'm going to add some bumps on the top of his tail. Yeah, Baby Sinclair is a really cute character in the TV sitcom. If you haven't checked it out, you should go and have a look at it. Also, the dad is called Earl Sinclair. I was really lucky because I met Nikki Lyons a while back, and she worked on the original costumes for the Henson Company, which must have just been amazing. While I was at her house, I was really lucky because she happened to have a model that was made of Earl Sinclair, like an original. It was like absolutely amazing just to kind of spot it there on her side. So you can see there I added a bit more to the nose area and added some nostrils. I've brought the cheeks down a little bit and I've brought the chin down a bit as well. There's more chubbiness needed on the sides of the cheeks, but I'll add those later. You can see on the hands I've added the kind of pads on the sort of main palm of the hand and on the fingers as well. I think they're looking pretty cool, and I can imagine those when they're all painted up as well will look even better. So there was one thing that's missing that's been bugging me for ages that I needed to put in. So I went ahead and added his couple of teeth at the front. Also, with his nostrils, they were just a little bit too small, so I just widened those a little bit, brought them down a bit. You can see I've added some more to his cheeks, like I said I was going to chubby them out. The teeth are just like two little cubes, really, just kind of stuck on with super glue. And on his sleeves, I've added a similar kind of ridge like I did at the bottom of his top. And you can see there I've added some creases into the sleeves as well to make them look more like fabric. Also, his pectoral muscles, I kind of brought them across a little bit, just widened them so they go more into his kind of top. So I started getting that good feeling where it was like Baby Sinclair is looking back at me. That's what I like to kind of feel. And I know if I get that before I've painted it, it's only going to get better after I paint it. So here you can see I made a flesh colour. It's a little bit pinker in real life than you're seeing on your screen, but anyway, you get the idea. And I literally painted the whole figure in this colour, as you can see. Um, I much prefer doing this, like painting one color over the whole thing, just because it's really quick. You don't have to think about anything, you just go for it. And it seems like you've just thought about painting it and it's all suddenly all painted. So that's really nice feeling. Obviously, I've got to paint his, nappy white and I've got to paint his top yellow and all this kind of thing. But at least I know all the bits that are supposed to be fleshy are now fleshy. I'm using System 3 acrylic paints to do all of the painting stages on this. You can see I've painted his nappy grey and his teeth grey just as an undercoat, and then I'll paint the white over the top using dry brush technique. By the way, if you ever want to make a flesh colour, I use yellow ochre, a little bit of white and a tiny bit of red, and that makes a really good flesh colour. Okay, so his top I painted lemon yellow mixed with white, and that's given me this really pale yellow. I can kind of touch in a lot of the edges and things afterwards, but I just kind of blocked it all in really quickly to start with. Next, I did a whole load of dry brushing, which is where you take some paint on your brush and you scrub it on a bit of kitchen paper until it's almost dry, and then you just dust it on all the higher up surfaces. So you can see I did a lighter flesh colour, and you can see it's really like made everything kind of show up, all the details. And then I did some on his nappy as well, where I used white over the grey. You can see all the creases remain grey and the white is on all the highest parts of his nappy. So we're getting to the finishing touch stages now. These are the bits that I like doing the most because especially the eyes, you do them and it kind of brings him to life. So you can see here I painted his irises brown and then I painted his pupils black, and then I've just added a layer of UV resin over the top. It's just like a clear liquid. You put it on and then you shine a UV torch on it and it sets really hard and it looks really really shiny, so it makes the eyes look really realistic. I've also added pink onto his tongue. I've added these pink spots on his cheeks, and I've also painted the inside of his mouth black and then put a little bit of dark pink in there as well. I've added a little bit of the pink on his tail as well, just for some markings. Right, I'd like to thank Milliput for sponsoring this channel. If you guys haven't tried Milliput yet, go out and get yourself a pack or two and give it a go, because it really is an amazing modelling material. If you've enjoyed this video, check out some of my other videos on other creatures that I've made. They're mainly movie creatures, but I make all kinds of other things as well. Hit subscribe if you want to see anything that I post up in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.